Fresh with Fresh and Felicia. Today we're going to talk about the Tenvels. We don't usually review 500 watt bikes, but they said take a look at this, and they convinced me to make an exception. Why? Well, you see a little bit later in the video. This really shocked me that 500 watts can do what this bike can do. It's got 1200 watts peak with 70 Newton meters of torque. And I was really shocked. We've got some crazy hills in this neighborhood. This thing didn't have a problem. So do you really need a 750 watt motor? And the price of a 500 watt is going to be significantly lower than 750. So if you don't need a 750, you can save a few bucks and save some battery as well. Now with that kind of speed comes great responsibility. And they afforded hydraulic brakes on this bike. I was really surprised to see a bike at this price level with hydraulic brakes, and they stop. It's got 180 millimeter rotors on this thing, and this thing stops on a dime. I'll show you that too. I actually left marks in my driveway. I was shocked at how good these hydraulic brakes are. Now the question everybody asks, what's the range of this bad boy? Well, they've got Samsung cells, and they're 48 volts with 20 amp hours. Multiply that out, you've got 960 watt hours of juice. How far will that get you? They're estimating if you're using pedal assist in your best case scenario, you're not going through dirt or grass or rocks or gravel or sand, and it's pretty flat with maybe some moderate hills, 70 to 75 miles of range on a single charge. Battery takes 4 to 6 hours from a complete depletion to a full charge. I don't know many people that ride 70 miles. I mean, it's possible you do it once in a while, but every day, probably need to think about public transportation at that point. Other important specs, this bad boy is heavy, weighs in at about 86 pounds. Includes your front and rear fenders. You've got a nice heavy duty bike rack. It's going to carry, they say, up to 330 pounds of payload, which makes this a wonderful hunting bike. You throw your deer over the back of this thing or put a trailer on it and tote your kids around or whatever. In the forest and camping, I could think of 1,000 different things this bike would be great for with this level of power and capacity. Bottom line, I mean, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles some of the more expensive bikes. I mean, I've seen bikes in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $7,000 that don't have the features this has. So I was really surprised that they give you all this for this money. This is a great buy. Let's take a little ride test and show you what this thing could do. And now it's time to put Plezo together. As you can see in the box, it's almost completely assembled. I'd say it's a good 90 to 95% assembled. But everything you need is here, including the tools, and that's very, very thoughtful. And there's a helpful assembly guide. Just scan the QR code, and there is instructions on Tenvels' website. So it is packed very, very well. So you're not going to get any scratches or any silliness on here. And you just cut all that stuff off. Be careful not to cut any cables, because those could ruin your whole day. Nice handlebars. You're going to notice there's this spacer in the front fork, so you want to take that off. You could use your 15mm wrench to loosen it up if you need to, and then you'll just pull this off. This just keeps the fork straight and keeps it away from bending in shipping in case it gets stacked on top of another box or something. So that just pulls right off, and then you're going to drop your front wheel in. But before you do that, I recommend putting your handlebars on first to get them out of the way. Otherwise, they'll just dangle and bang into your front wheel. And this is pretty easy, too. There's 4 Allen bolts you'll need to completely take off. And this other end on your stem will come off, and you just put your handlebars on there. Very simple to do. Very straightforward. Anybody at any skill level can do this. You pull out your middle Allen wrench and just loosen these guys up and take them off. And you'll see there's a brace, that metal brace on there, which holds your handlebars on. And then when you put it back on, just make sure it's straight. Make sure your brakes are facing the front of the bike. I've seen people put these on backwards, and it's embarrassing. And you also have this leveling mechanism embedded right here onto the handlebars themselves, so you know that they're straight. And you can adjust these to your comfort level too, which is very nice. And just tighten these up when you put it back on. Make sure these are very tight. You might want to go through them twice, do it crisscross, and then tighten them up real well. Now we can drop the front wheel in, and you'll see that there is a caliper here and a rotor. So that rotor needs to slide inside that caliper. It can be a little tricky if you're by yourself, if you don't have a bite stand. You might have to do this a couple of times. And just drop it in there, find where the axle is, loosen those nuts up, and it should drop right in there. Loosen them up a little more if you need to. And this way you could just put the kickstand down and continue your assembly. You do want to tighten these up very, very well. There is no lock washer here, so make sure they're very, very tight, and you will be good to go. Next piece is the front fender. The front fender already has a bolt in. It's holding the headlight on, so you need to take that off. And then the headlight's going to go on the front, and then the fender will go on the back. And then you just put that bolt and the lock nut back on there, and that will be ready to go. It also has these 2 bolts that are in the front stem, and you'll need to connect your fender to that as well. Very thoughtful including these fenders in this package, especially at this price point. That's quite a value. A lot of bike companies will charge you extra for this. And then we're about ready to go. The last piece we need is to put the pedals on. Now, it is an electric bike. You don't have to pedal, but it's good to pedal for exercise and also to make your battery last longer. They are marked left and right on the inside of the bolt here, so you'll know which one's which. There is a difference in the threads, and it does tell you right here on the crank which way is forward, which way you need to twist these things to get them on there. So you put the left one on the left side, the right side on the right side, obviously, and just turn those on. You could start it a little bit, and then you're going to use your 15mm wrench to tighten those up. And you want those to be very tight as well. So you don't want your pedals falling off. It's always a good idea to check all your bolts and all your connections before you take any ride on any bicycle. And on the other side, we're going to do the same exact thing. And then we'll take our 15mm wrench once that is in the threads, and we'll tighten that up equally too. These are nice pedals. They have little nubs on them to keep your feet secure, and they also have reflectors on the back. So these are kind of an upgrade, and they are metal as well. I've seen a lot of plastic pedals at this price range, so it's very thoughtful to include metal with all these extra features. It really is a lot of features in this Tenvels Plezo. And the chain wasn't on here, but no big deal. You just kind of pull it down. Your derailleur has a spring in it, so it gives you a little bit of flex there. Put it around your crank, and you are ready for your first ride. We're almost ready for our first ride. You need to adjust the seat. It is adjustable on the bottom. You can adjust the angle if you want to. Find just about the right height. And then use the quick release to lock it in place. If it's not tight enough, you can twist this little guy. the other side. Just to the point where it's really hard to push. Give it some effort. It should be nice and tight. She won't go anywhere. Now, if you notice, there's two keys on here. They're held on pretty tight with this little plastic doodad. You definitely don't want to cut this cable, so you have to be very, very ginger when you cut this little plastic thing off. Or you can decide to leave it there if you want to. Now, you don't need these keys to ride the bike. The only thing these keys do is release the battery so that nobody can rip them off. So you put your key in there, twist it forward, and you've got a little lock switch here. Move that down, and your battery comes off. So you can take it with you if you go to work, or if you're at home, or if you leave your bike outside, because these batteries are worth some money. And you can charge it inside if it happens to be too cold outside and you want to leave your bike out overnight. You definitely want to charge that battery up all the way before you take it out for the first ride. You also have a bell in here too. Look at that. All right, so let's take a look at the battery. It does have this pretty cool button up here. It lights up green if it has enough juice in it. So if you charge it off the battery, there's a little hole right here on the bottom. You just take your included charger, plug that bad boy right into there, and you'll see your charger turns red to indicate that it's charging. Full charge from zero, probably take about 4 to 6 hours. But this one's almost full. But again, I like to charge it up all the way the first time before I ride it. And most of the times when these bikes come from the factory, the tires are kind of empty, either as a result of temperature changes during shipping, or pressure on the airplane so they don't explode, or they're just not filled up to fit into the packaging. So these here say inflate to 20 pounds per square inch. So I'm going to take these up to 20.
And that's about it, sports fans. Time to take the first test ride, make sure everything's all tightened up and ready to go. I tightened all the nuts, including the front tire and the pedals, and made sure everything's nice and tight. And now for my first brake check, because you always want to check your brakes, make sure they work. And look at them hydraulic brakes. Those are nice. That is a really, really nice perk of this bike. And it's amazing that it's available at this price point. 180 millimeter front discs, 7-speed Shimano shifter, everything you need to hit the road as a bicycle or an electric bicycle or with pedal assist. This thing's a rock star. Highly recommend checking this Tenvels bike out. This is a winner.